Hey, Money Guy family, it's your host, Brian Preston, back with another episode of Ask the Money Guy with Mr. Bo Hansen.
That's right. You guys have financial questions. We've got your financial answers. Go to your favorite social, use the hashtag #AskTheMoneyGuy, or go to our website, moneyguy.com, and ask us a question.
It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
So, Brian, today's question is actually a little unique. We had a listener reach out, and she had a fantastic question, and we began working through it and answering it and pinning some stuff on paper, and it turned out so good, we said, this is better than just to ask.
That's Kate.
We are going to turn Kate's question to a full-on show, but there was one little sliver of it that we thought was perfect for an ask, and this was Kate's question. As a stay-at-home spouse, do I need life insurance?
Now, see, this is a great question because a lot of people think when somebody doesn't have earned income, there's not an insurable interest there.
Well, that's the problem if you just follow rules of thumb. You know, the rule of thumb for life insurance is you want to have roughly 10 times your income, 10 times your gross income. Well, if you're a stay-at-home spouse, there is no income, right? There's nothing coming in materially from a monetary standpoint, so 10 times 0 would be 0, right?
I think this is always an interesting point because Salary.com does an annual survey and research piece where they try to put a worth to all the value-added things that a non-working spouse does at the house, what I like to call the chief operations officer. And what they came up with in their research is that the typical non-working spouse, if you added up all the duties they do, it works to be.
Some stay-at-home spouses are dealing in duties.
It adds up to approximately $164,000 a year.
Wow.
So if you think about somebody if you had somebody making $164,000 a year and you did the 10 times earnings, you'd have somebody you have like a $1.6 million life insurance policy. So there's definitely probably an insurable interest that you need to make sure of. And let's kind of cover what the yes moment is and what the no moments are. So first, let's talk about the yes. I think if you have a non-working spouse, you should consider buying life insurance on that non-working spouse if you have a mortgage together. Say you're newlyweds, you go out there and get the first new house and you have like a $200,000 mortgage. Even though they don't generate income, if something should happen to them, you probably are going to have a hard time working and being gainfully employed.
That's right.
You're going to be devastated. So you got to make sure you have enough resources to cover those outstanding obligations.
That's right.
There's also the big one, and Bo, you can kind of talk about this, is what happens when you have little ones? I mean, you got multiple tricycle motors running around your house.
Yeah, obviously my wife, she's a stay-at-home spouse, and if something were to happen to her, not only would I be emotionally devastated, my house would be in shambles because she's the one who handles getting our kids to and from school. She does the lunches, watches them during the day, does all the clothes, all the domestic responsibilities kind of fall into her camp. If she weren't there to do that, I would be just an absolute wreck. I'd be completely lost. And so when we had our kids, we made the decision that if something were to happen to her, I'd have to hire full-time help. I'd have to have a nanny or someone to come in to fill at least the domestic roles that she's filling. So certainly if you have any children in the house, young age, it makes sense for you to have life insurance on a spouse.
And by the way, all that stuff's expensive.
It is.
That is
right.
something that is definitely should be taken into consideration. And here's the thing I would tell you: if you have, like I mentioned, the debt, you have, children in the house, and you have somebody watching them and helping with them, you're going to go fine. You're going to say, well, I definitely have an interest. So how much insurance? We definitely recommend that it's so cheap. When you guys go out there and see what a $250,000 term life insurance, and base that term limit on how old the kids are. You want to get them out of the house before the term ends. So if you have a 3-year-old, I think you could probably do a 20-year term, maybe 23, and hopefully wrapping up college. So looking at a 20-year term is a good thing. When you see especially young ladies, a 20-year term policy at either $250,000, $500,000, it's pennies.
Really
it is
expensive.
really cheap. You're talking about a few $100s a year. You're going to be like, wow, this is worth the peace of mind to even consider something like this. Now, when does it not make sense to buy life insurance on a non-working spouse? This is going to come later probably in your life, in the fact that if you are completely debt-free, if your spouse and yourself have built up enough assets that you're probably getting close to financial independence, then you probably could ask yourself, since there's no requirement to replace income, there's no requirement to pay down debt, might not need life insurance. And let's talk about, the estate exemption is now $11.4 million a person, so it's probably not an estate tax issue. There's just you start grasping at straws of why you might need life insurance at that point.
Yeah, and odds are, even if you're maybe not quite at the financial independence point, or if you are at the financial independence point, but you've just reached that level where your kids are no longer in the house, maybe they are financially independent on their own right, they're no longer on mom and dad's payroll, that's a great time where you might think, okay, my spouse no longer has a need for insurance if something were to happen to the stay-at-home spouse.
So great question, Kate, and I can't wait. We're going to do an episode in the coming weeks to address your other questions, because it was just so good. There was so much meaty stuff there that it gave us a lot of inspiration. So you too, guys, anybody out there listening, you say, well, I'd like to give these guys content ideas, write us a question. Bo, tell them how to do that.
Yeah, you can go to our website, go to moneyguy.com, hit contact us, and you put a question right there. We get those directly. We read all of them. Unfortunately, we don't get to answer all of them, but that's how we come up with not only our content for Ask the Money Guys, that's also how we come up with our show content. So if you have a great question, great thought, great insight, we'd love to hear it. Or you can go out to your favorite social, use the hashtag AskTheMoneyGuy, and we'll answer your question right here in the Tesla.
Hey guys, remember, I'm your host, Brian Preston, Mr. Bo Hansen. Go to moneyguy.com, and we'll be talking to you soon.